In the Dell TI Now studio at Mobile World Congress 2015, we have Manish Singh. He's the Vice President of Product Management for SDN and NFV at Tech Mahindra. And Manish, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for having me.
It wasn't long ago that we were talking about SDN, not NFV at that point, we were talking about SDN for a documentary we're working on. I think we caught up with you at CTI in Las Vegas. So now we're over the pond in Barcelona, so we're happy to that you gave us your time.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity. It was a pleasure talking to you then, and since then, a lot has happened. The ecosystem has continued to evolve and mature, and a lot more solutions coming out, and again, a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you. Now, of course, every IoT network needs scalability, agility. We hear those kind of buzzwords as marketing terms, but no one's really, at least to this point in the show, broken that down for maybe the layman person, quote unquote, to understand what that means. Could you give us a use case to that effect?
Absolutely. So first of all, think about Internet of Things, and what does that mean? We're talking about connecting everything. 50 billion devices being talked about to be connected. And not all devices are created equal. You have on one hand something like a connected car, versus on the other hand you're talking about home automation. You have wearables, you have e-health. All sort of these devices that are wanting to be connected. And they all have different use cases that come to life. Some will have some high mobility, while others would have low mobility. Some would have high bandwidth requirements, others have low bandwidth requirements, some have high latency, low latency, so on and so forth. And so the underlying infrastructure that's to be built needs to be flexible, needs to be agile, needs to be programmatic in a way that it can cater to different devices, different applications that will run over this infrastructure. And take a use case. Take a use case of smart city that we as Tech Mahindra are showing here at Mobile World Congress, where you have a city which has a lot of cameras, all of them generating video feeds that are being delivered over a shared infrastructure. And say an event happens, a disaster event, a security event, a fire blast, you name it, right? Something happens once the video cameras detect that an event has happened, the camera's application tomorrow, with Internet of Things and a programmable SDN network, can come over the infrastructure, go to an SDN controller and say, give me a fat pipe, because I now want to send a high density video to the emergency responders. And having a software defined, flexible infrastructure can very quickly reconfigure the network, give that fat pipe to the videos to be delivered to the first responders, and there you have it. And that's an application, SDN application, that Tech Mahindra is showing here at Mobile World Congress.
It's interesting, we talked about the theories behind virtual networking, SDN, NFV, just again, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Now we're talking about actual deployment. So thank you for giving us that, and I'll certainly get over to Tech Mahindra to check that out. Is that a demonstration?
It is a demonstration. As a matter of fact, the couple of technologies we are showing, one is Smart City, it's an SDN application. We are also showing a virtualized EPC reference implementation. That's an NFV application where we're showing elastic scaling of a EPC network function over a commoditized underlying platform infrastructure.
Manish, I want to ask you about market trends, and specifically those trends and how they will impact the SDN and NFV world, if you will.
Right, I think, if you look at the market trends, and what the communication service providers have been very specifically looking for and asking is looking at the next gen infrastructure. They want the infrastructure to be built in a way that we move away from the old paradigm of building box by box, the big iron model. They want to move away from that and get the infrastructure built in a way that's highly flexible, very agile, built on commodity server farms, built on commodity switches, and is very programmatic. So different kinds of applications, different kind of functions, different kind of devices, different kinds of services that they want to launch, the infrastructure actually supports that. That's one. Second thing, with service agility, these service providers really want to get to a point where they can launch new services very quickly. If the service is adopted, they want to have the infrastructure that can elastically scale, so service can be scaled up very rapidly. at the same time, if a service doesn't take off and you have infant mortality, then they want to have the cost points at which they introduce to be very, very low. And so they can really go and experiment out different kind of services, solutions that they want to offer. And that's what really is the value proposition that SDN NFV brings. The ecosystem continues to mature. There's a lot of open source work that's happening in the community. There's a lot of ecosystem partners that are working, and we have our own ecosystem as a SI, as a system integrator, because we are working with open source community, we are working with our partners to bring different elements in the solution stack across SDN and NFV.
I'm glad you mentioned the partner ecosystem. I mentioned at the top of the show that we're in the Dell booth. As you can see, and I'm sure our cameras can see as well, there are a number of partners in the Dell booth. Can you tell us about the Tech Mahindra Dell partnership and how much can you divulge to us here?
Right, absolutely. And again, we as a system integrator are building an ecosystem of partners, right? And Dell is a very important partner in that ecosystem where we have a very complementary relationship, because what Dell brings is the NFVI, the virtualized infrastructure, the server solutions, the switching infrastructure that's needed. And what Tech Mahindra is focused on is bringing all the different elements, be it open source that sits, or OpenStack, Open Daylight controllers, ONOS controllers, all different kinds of controllers, bring different kinds of orchestrators, as well as I shared with you, some of the VNF reference implementations, be it on virtualized EPC, be it on virtualized CPE. These are different reference implementations that we are bringing on top of these NFVI platforms, and that's our partnership. Dell brings the NFVI solutions, we bring everything above that and deliver integration capabilities to our customers, the CSPs, communication service providers.
Of course, Tech Mahindra, as you know, is a system integrator. It puts you in a very interesting spot as the entire industry is converging. As I mentioned right here, a number of partners just in the Dell booth. How has Tech Mahindra changed even over the last couple of years?
Right, so first of all, if you look at the old paradigm to the new paradigm, going from physical network functions to virtual network functions, going from vertically integrated models, the box model, to a virtualized world, it really brings up and opens a very important question: is who's going to do the integration? Who delivers the complete stack integration end to end, from underlying platforms, virtualized infrastructure managers, controllers on the SDN side, orchestrators, BSS, OSS, all the virtual network? Who does that? And that's where Tech Mahindra steps in. We really are building up these capabilities so that our communication service providers can really bring in all these different elements of the virtualized solution, and yet have a system integrator who's vendor agnostic, vendor neutral, brings the capability, brings the scale, and that's what we are doing at Tech Mahindra. And as you rightly said, it does put us in a very interesting spot, and that's why we are strategically making investments in building up these capabilities around SDN and NFV.
Manish, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, specifically about virtual networking. I'm sure it won't be that long that we talk about SDN and NFV again, and I'm sure that there'll be some significant changes at that point as this is moving so quickly.
Absolutely, Abe. Again, truly a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Manish. And as always, you can get all of our content here at Mobile World Congress 2015 on our website at tianow.org. So long.